between us and the graduation, there's so much enthusiasm for this event. Ben Watkins was a true hero of this community, and his son definitely followed in his footsteps. Before I introduce very briefly, Ben, there's some events coming up here. Let us see if I can remember. This Saturday night is a concert duo Lancaster. We have a cello and piano duo, which has been dubbed Duo Lancaster because this group comes here fairly often. This would be a really great classical portion on Saturday night at 6:30. And then next Thursday, which is the 13th, we're having the Valentine's concert, which is in North Carolina Royal Chamber Orchestra. They play here fairly often. They're going to have a really great, truly amorous evening of classical music. And just so you know, on the following day, on Valentine's, at the university, at the Bundy Auditorium, there's a group that's being sponsored by the university that's younger, pointed out that we're doing their Valentine's concert. So there are actually going to be 2 Valentine concerts down next week. I hope you can get it both. Do both. So that's what's happening here. And now I'm going to turn to Ben. Ben Watkins, those of us who grew up in Lancaster, he had a huge impact on all of us. And it was long after I left Lancaster, he continued to have even more impact. So this is going to be a great program, and I'll turn to his son, Ben Watkins III.
Thank you. Well, this is wonderful. I am so excited. One of the first things I was going to do was ask for a show of hands of people who didn't know my dad at all. And I'm not sure there are any, okay, how many? Okay, so there are some of you, but on the other hand, based on what I have seen and talked to here, I can just forget this and I can just go around the room and tell a story about everybody, about at least 10, 15 people in here that worked with my dad, that supported him, and that were encouraged and supported by him. I'm gonna just tell you one, okay, before I even start. There's a gentleman here I saw who walked up to me early, and I recognized him immediately. His name's Gary Martin. And Gary came to Lancaster when he was in the 6th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. He already knew how to play the trumpet, and knew how to play the trumpet well, okay? And he, because of that, he went straight into the A band in the 6th grade. He was 11 years old, all right? And at the concert that year, in 1964, which I have this record sitting right back here, he played a solo called Pavane, a trumpet solo. It didn't make it into the band record. Know about the records. It didn't make it into the record, but it was on the reel-to-reel tape. And so that hasn't been heard since that night by anybody other than maybe my dad, okay? Because he had to edit the tape to see what was going to go on the record. So since 1964, so that's 60 years, that song hadn't been heard. I listened to it about 3 days ago because of the Lancaster Society for Historical Preservation and the fact that I had these reel-to-reel tapes. Those have now been digitized and they're on computer. That's part of how this thing started. So that's just one story. I hadn't seen Gary in 60 years, maybe 55. We played in Charlotte Youth Symphony together when I was in 11th and 12th grade, and he would have been the same thing. But, and there are others in the room just like that. I can tell you that I haven't maybe seen each other in that length of time too. So that's what I can't do today, because if I do that every time I stop, we'll never get through. So I have to try not to do that, and I'll try to stay on message. So these were just pictures. So this is, now I can figure out where I am. I did all of that. I am supposed to, I do want to tell you, I'm not sure any of you have this problem, but sometimes I'll just forget the word that I'm trying to say. Okay? So if I forget a word and I stop and have to, understand that because it does have. How did I end up here? Okay, so this is a story of real tapes that I became the custodian of when Dad passed away in 1996. There's about 60 of these tapes, and because they're reel to reel, you have to have a special player to play them. It's not like a cassette or any of that stuff. And I had intended for years to do something with them, and I never got around to it. And so this past summer, I got really stressed is the word about them because they have a life. They don't live forever. Now, we had taken good care of these. They weren't ever put in an attic or put it outside where the heat was. But still, these are 60-year-old recordings. So I said, well, let's see how Facebook works. So I put it out on Facebook. I described what I had and essentially said, anybody out there interested in having these things, because I'm afraid they're going to outlive their utility, and so that's what I did. Robert Folks replied almost immediately, within a couple of days, that he felt like they needed to be preserved. I guess Robert talked to John Craig and the Lancaster Society for Historical Preservation stepped up and said, well, we'll support that. So we did. I took him to a guy in Charlotte. He digitized 37 of the tapes, and so there's still more to do, but a lot of them are duplicates. Okay, so might be for a 1968 concert, there might be 5 tapes. We didn't do all 5, we only did 2, so I had to pick. But there's still stuff to do, okay? So that's one of the things when John says, let's support the archives. That's the way to support the archives is to get the rest of that stuff converted, because what I have found in studying all of this material is the more you look, the more you find. It's just like that. So, so we had the tapes, we got them digitized, and then we met Robert, John, and I, and Katie Ayers, who is kind of helping me with the archive work. It was decided by my family that we were going to donate all of the stuff, and that's the best word for it, all the stuff that Daddy had to the archives. Hey, Russell. To the archives, and I think the archives were excited about it because it's a lot of good stuff, and it has applicability to Lancaster. It's just a time capsule. So we did that, and then some months later, I was talking with John, and he realized I can't shut up, and he asked me to do one of these conversations. So that's why I'm here. That's how I got here. And again, I'm excited. I want to mention one more person right off, and that's Educator, who I just met today, but who just wrote a wonderful article about Dad that brought back, I hope brought back lots of memories for people. So that's all of that. So what am I going to do? For the next hour, I'm going to tell you some stories and play some music. For the next hour, it's about 45 minutes now, probably. The goal is to hopefully tell you some things about Dad that you didn't know. Because, like I said, Robert Folks has wrote a wonderful thing when Dad was inducted into the Education Hall of Fame. He did a lot of research, so he's put stuff out there in the paper that talks about it. Manny's article talks about it. Y'all all have your own memories. But I'm hoping that these things aren't things you don't know. And everything I show you is supported by material that will be in the archive. So that's, I'm going to say the archive a lot because that's a real important thing for this thing. Let's see where this is. No, that was that one. Let's catch up. What's in the archive? 50 plus reel-to-reel tapes, 37 of them we've got digitized, hundreds of feet of movie film that need to be digitized, 5 scrapbooks with articles, pictures, letters. I'm thinking there's at least 1,000 different items. A lot of them, by the way, are up here on the thing. You can walk by and look at them later on. I'd say 100, but thousands of pictures and slides and negatives. He just took everything. We got Golden Girl costumes. We got traveling outfits from the Golden Girls in the Hurricane. My sister-in-law was a majorette, and she kept all of this stuff, you know. So we got it. She brought it up this weekend, so we got that. So it's all there. The work of the archive is going to be to catalog, number, put a little synopsis of all this stuff. So as I started learning about archives, one of the conflicts in the archive world is preservation versus accessibility. And so there's got to be a balance in that thing. But Dad's life, again, y'all know, he was born in 1924. Early, he started music, but probably from the age of 8 to 14, he played the xylophone, the marimba. He was a percussionist in the Reynolds High School Band in Winston-Salem. At 15, he went to Davidson. So that's what, 1940. And in 1943, because he was an ROTC in Davidson, he enlisted in the Army. Got a nice little Army section in here. And then he went back to Davidson and graduated in 1948. In 1949, he came here as director of band. Also in 1949, he joined the Charlotte Symphony. Those two activities, he'd do that during the day. He'd teach during the day, and he'd go play in the symphony at night, going up and down the road to Charlotte a lot. And he retired in 1981, and he died in 1996. So, first story. Let me catch up. First story, I call it the band theme song. So in 1959, the musical Gypsy came out. Okay, and one of the songs in that was "Everything's Coming Up Roses." Now, I don't know the sequence of this, okay, but I just know it all happened around the same time. So the musical came out. Lancaster is the Red Rose City. And so I'm going to say that because nobody's going to contradict me. If you know a better story, you can. But my dad said, well, we're the Red Rose City, and so everything coming up roses is going to be our theme song, the band's theme song. But he didn't have the music, so he arranged it himself for the band. And that's what this is. So that's just where he said, and he said, do not give out under any circumstances. What he would do is he'd make copies of each part, and he would give that to the students for them to learn, but he didn't want to lose the main part. This first clarinet part. So that all the parts are in there, okay, for every instrument. Who knows what these are? Uniform patches. So you notice the one on this, we were the red rose and black. So you can put it on band uniforms. These were band patches from 60. I don't know. So now we're going to listen. That was from 1964. And again, I have the 1964 album over here, by the way, but I'm not sure that was on the album. I don't remember. But one of the things about I can't remember if I already said this or not. One of the things about getting the tapes digitized is that every concert, there was always more music than there was time on the albums. And again, for those who don't know, for a period of time, they would have a spring concert, and in the spring concert, they would record it, and then they would make albums from the concert, and they would sell those albums as a way to raise money for the band, and as a way for parents and folks to have memories. I already had somebody tell me today, oh, I got that. But the fact that we got this music, and it's digitized, and it's available, it's going to be available. We still got to work through the hows of it, but it's going to be available for people to listen to. And again, some of this stuff hadn't been heard since it was played. Okay, I know that. So that's first story. Second story, and now we get to an influence story. Susie Watkins, that's my grandmother, and that's his mother. And she started him early, and again, I'm going to use the word encouraged. I don't think pushed is the right word, but she definitely allowed him to express himself musically, and then made him available in a lot of places. I was going through things, and I found this. This is her notebook. This is her address book. But in it is about 6 pages, and what this says is, that she was his accompanist, and it says, he performed in over 200 different venues, and this is probably from 8 to 14. And then this is just a list of some of the places that he played. And there's 4 more pages of it. She was his costume designer. Let's see if that's the next one. No. This one is a letter. Let's see if it zooms. I can zoom it up. I want you to see that. So this is a part of that letter where, and by the way, she was getting ready to go perform at a Rotary Club meeting now. So he's 11 here? And so here is, this is in the archives. I just showed you because this is the kind of stuff that supports what was going on. This is how he, again, I'm going to say he was 8, or maybe 9. This picture, by the way, later on, my dad wrote on the back of it what it was and what he thought about it. So obviously he didn't think much of how he was dressed up, but and that xylophone, it tells you how it's like this. A real xylophone is huge. He's playing on a xylophone that's half size. That was, I got no music into that story, but that story goes into this story. So this is a man named James Christian Fole, and you can see where he was. He grew up in Winston-Salem. He's 11 years older than my dad, okay? And he he didn't go to Davis. He graduated from the University of Michigan with a music degree. But he was asked at the age of 19 to start the music department at Davis. And he did. He had 3 bands that he started. He also started a summer camp at Davidson for boys summer camp at Davidson. My dad and a bunch of guys from Winston-Salem went to that camp. That camp later became Transylvania Music Camp in Brevard. Now I'm sorry? You went to the camp. So that story's everywhere. And he was a Charlotte Symphony conductor when my dad started the Charlotte Symphony. And in the Moravian Church, he was life to death in the Moravian Church as a musicologist, as a church member, and as a conductor of a lot of the music that happened in the Moravian Church. He brought my dad into all of these things. He exposed him to all of these things. He asked my dad very early to start playing in the Easter services with the Moravian Church of the Seven Last Words of Christ, which is a theater which is a Moravian tradition at Easter. My dad went to Davidson on a music scholarship and got a music degree. My dad started the Charlotte Symphony when he was the orchestra conductor. This man had a profound influence on my dad. It can't be emphasized how much. And I will tell you, in the archives, there are lots of letters where even after Dad had come to Lancaster as a band director, where Dr. Fole was writing and encouraging him. So it was, I can't emphasize enough how much my dad took from this man in terms of his influence. Here was where Dad went to Davidson and played in one of the concerts for Davidson. This is Transylvania Music Camp again. This is just kind of repeating what I said. Dad was a counselor that was good. That was one of the words I couldn't remember the other day. Dad was a counselor at Transylvania. I'm going to say from 1950 to 53, 54. One of those years I found out just the other day in reading some of this stuff, he was actually the business manager one year. I was there when I was 3 and 4. I just remember going for the summer. My brother was in a crib over there with a bunch of kids for the concert. Charlotte Symphony Orchestra. This is a letter that Dr. Fole wrote to my grandmother. And you can't see it, but we pulled up some subject. We tried to pull out. Come on. Oh, there you go. In this part, he's just telling my grandmother what a great job Dad did playing. Again, Dad's 14 years, okay? Playing for a concert for the band with the band at Davidson. And then he goes on. He goes on and talks about some upcoming things that my dad's got, and I think he was expecting my dad to come play in the Moravian, in the Seven Last Words of Christ. He was expecting him to come play somewhere, but he agreed that Dad really needed to go do this other thing, which I think it says was to do something about an all-state band or something. So he said, yeah, he ought to do that. And then here he's going to play accompaniment for Daddy. Anyway, he's going to play accompaniment maybe with Daddy was going to play on the radio. He was going to go play with WBT on the radio. So this is a guy, and again, he's the head of the music department at Davidson, but who is supporting my dad in 3 different ways there. And again, I got lots of these letters that are in this archive. Now, how did that translate to here? So this is a program from 1971 in Lancaster of a performance of the Seven Last Words of Christ. It is not a widely performed piece of music at Easter. People do the Messiah, they do handle the Seven Last Words of Christ, but they don't do this one. But Dad knew it. It's a beautiful piece of music. One of the tapes was a recording of this Seven Last Words of Christ. It has an orchestra with it. The churches, to combine churches, got together and put up the money to hire an orchestra. And so I'm going to play you the last thing that they sang, and I'm really excited to have it being played in this meeting because it's the right place to play it. You singing that part, Johnson? Huh? Oh yeah, like I said, I think I played the French horn in it actually. But we used to sing this in the First Presbyterian Church pretty regularly. So that was Seven Last Words of Christ, and Foal and my mom together. The Army. Does the Army have influence on people? I know it did my dad. This share some thing. This is his commendation where he won the Silver Star. He went in over there in 1944. He was in a battle that tells you all about it. I'm not going to. He won the Silver Star, the Bronze Star for combat. Out of that combat, he didn't get injured, but he got frozen feet. Okay, so with frozen feet, he ended up in the hospital. This is a part of his service record. It shows where he was at different times, and we're going to pull out this section that shows where he was in the hospital in France at a particular time around Christmas in 1944. Now, the reason I show this is to emphasize the fact that my dad saved everything. Everything. It is incredible. And what I'm going to show you next just blows my mind. Because while he was in that hospital in 1944 in France with frozen feet, at Christmas they had a Christmas dinner. And this is the menu Christmas dinner. It's back here, it's about this big, okay? Now, what would possess him to say that? I just don't understand, but he did. And it's in the archive. I'd like to say that's probably, this is a picture, I showed this just because it's such a great picture. It's Buckingham Palace on VE Day. Picture in Europe Day. So he was in London on VE Day, and he went down to Buckingham Palace where all the crowds were celebrating the end of the World War II in Europe. I missed one page. I want to go back because I need to. This page right here, this is the last part of my dad's war story. While he was in the hospital, he actually went back to England and was in the hospital there. And while he was there, somebody recognized that, oh, he was a music major at Davidson. So they put him in charge of all the music in the United Kingdom. He was a music officer for the United Kingdom. First thing he did, and this is his story, okay, but I know it because he told me. First thing he did was he cut himself orders to go get his brother in Germany or France, who was still fighting, and brought him back, Joby Watkins, and he became Dad's drummer in Dad's band that he took and went around Europe and played, in the UK and played. He was there in London for a while, and then he went to Brussels, and he was the music officer for France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. And that's how he ended the war. So it wasn't like, he was in the trenches the whole time. He did charge a machine gun, to get the Silver Star. That's what he got it for. But then he became the music officer for that group of people because they saw Davidson music on his ROTC stuff. Let's see. All right, let's catch it up. Elsie Boyce. Elsie Boyce was a principal of Dobson Elementary School and also was our neighbor. She lived 2 houses down from us. Her daughter babysat me, I guess both of her daughters have passed away recently.
No, Judy. Judy's still in there.
Okay. Well, one of them passed away, and they sent me some of her stuff. So what you're going to see next is stuff of hers that she kept in a folder that said Ben Watkins on it, and things that resulted from that. All right. So this is just a scrap of paper. Okay, it's part of a poem from Longfellow called "The Song of Life," I think. Okay, and she would send Daddy these things and say, "Write music to it." So he did. It's a beautiful piece of music. She would use these things in her school. This is a letter where she wrote to Lavoy Baltmite. I'm going to say 60% of the pictures that you see about Lancaster were taken by Lavoy Baltmite or Bonnie Bell or Lee Montgomery. Those were the three. But Lavoy was a lot of them. My dad actually rooted with Lavoy when he came to Lancaster. He and Ray Dennis. And it's nice to be able to say those names and have people know who you're talking about. And not have to explain it. So here's a letter where she wrote to Lavoy asking for one of these pictures. This is a glamour shot Dad had taken in 1949. Okay, now that's not when this is. This is later, but she wanted this because she had that piece of music on the wall in Dobson, and she used it as a teaching tool, and she wanted to have a picture on there. I think it says in there, and I don't think we pulled this out, but and this is shows you her, how she was before her time. The poem has a thing, it's lives of great men, all something, I forget, but she always referred to it as lives of great men and women. She was teaching both of them. And so she used it as a teaching thing, but that's what she would do. She'd sing some music. She got the picture. I'm assuming it lived on the wall in Dobson for some period of time. Here's another one. Frogs Jumping. This is a poem. I think she wrote this one. So she wrote the poem. All right. Hey, Ben, write me some music. She wrote this little thing. Ben said this was the most difficult thing he ever tried to do. And I can only believe that she said that he did that. Okay. But he wrote the music. Now, the thing that's most interesting about this, I have no idea whether this has ever been played by anybody or sung by anybody. Anybody in here go to Dobson Elementary? You remember, if so, do you remember singing it? Huh? Yeah, her and Angie Hunt were the other that I remember. But, you know, there's some of these things. John, you play the piano. You want to get up there and play this one? Well, I'll let you practice. I don't know whether this ever, I'm sure she used it in school because he's giving instructions there about how you're supposed to teach it, how you're supposed to use it. That's what the words say. So I always think about, when I think about this voice, she used to walk around her neighborhood. All the Wiley ladies were sitting over there, so they lived across the street from us. But she would walk around the neighborhood right up until when she was in her 90s. I've got more examples I'd like to show them. So how does this turn into music? Okay, because obviously it turned into music. I think she allowed Dad to express a creative side of him that he wouldn't have expressed otherwise. The only other thing I know he wrote, the only two things, is he wrote my mom a love song early. Okay, so I got that framed in on the piano. There, that she was just there. What else? Oh, when my sister got married, he wrote her processional down the church center aisle, First Presbyterian. So we have all this music that's going to be dedicated to the archives. Now, here again, this is 1964, so the music that came off that we played before, everything coming up early, it's on this record. I'm not going to go off. So Gary Martin's in this thing. He's a little short guy. On the left side, he's the one that's just talking. Is he on the left, right? But on this one, not only was the band there, but they got the combined choruses of Dobson and Rice, and there was, as it says there was over 100 fifth and sixth graders. I was one of those. I was in the sixth grade that year. And they sang two numbers with the band, one of which we're getting ready to hear. It's called Children's Prayer by Engelbert Humperdinck. It's not the one you think of. He wrote Hansel and Gretel. And that's what this is from. promise you, even though I wasn't paying attention when I was at 12, my dad was crying at the end of that. Because I know how he reacted to things like that. And having 100 band members, and another 100 kids singing something like that. They sang another one, it's a Kyrie Lay song. That's just as beautiful. Like I said, I can see him ended and then he'd be crying. So that's the band part. Now, that actually ended about right where I call it. Okay. And I can talk about hobbies. Let me just do the hobbies right quick, and then we'll have some questions, or we can just talk amongst ourselves. He had three main hobbies. One was model railroading, one was furniture making, and one was making violins. Okay, and all of these took place down in the basement of our house on Lenford Court. I don't know whether they built the basement in anticipation of this, because the house didn't have basements, you know, just didn't have basements. But this was his first one. And our basement, let's say it was 12 by 15, maybe a little bit bigger, okay? He covered the whole thing with a 4-foot table, 4-foot set of plywood, and he laid out this whole thing, and I got hundreds of pictures, 800 pictures, of this in various stages. He got through with it, took all these pictures, and wrote an article, sent it in the Model Railroad, they published it, and they tore it all out. He was done with his Model Railroad thing. There was a hole in the middle of it that you had to crawl under the table, and you come up in the middle, and then you would run all the trains. So you could have four trains running at one time. It was not a train set for little boys. So we got to watch on the stairs. There's every so often we get to come under and push some buttons and stuff. But this was a time-consuming, and he was totally dedicated to it until he wasn't dedicated to it. And then he made furniture. And made 3 pieces of furniture. We have in our house, our china cabinet is one that he made. He loved walnut and wood. And so he made most of the stuff out of walnut. There I did get to help. I got to help him bring stuff up and down the stairs. So at that point I was big enough that I could actually do a little heavy lifting. And then the last thing is, and I got him sitting out over here, he made violins. He made, you can look at them, but he made 3 violins. They're in the style of Guarnerius as opposed to Stradivarius. Any of his hobbies, he had 3 or 4 stages. First stage was he would read everything he could get his hands on. Second thing he would do, he would buy all the tools that you needed to make whatever he was going to do. Some of the tools in the violin, or for instance, he had to make, okay, himself. The forms, the molds, the things that you use to bend stuff, he made all that stuff before he actually started to make the violins. He made 3 violins. One he traded to a lady in the Charlotte Symphony for my first car, 62 Carmen Gia. I had it a week and I wrecked it on Main Street with some bells. It wasn't my fault. Somebody ran in the back of me and I ran into somebody in the front, so I got it from both ends. But we got it fixed. And the second one he sold to Karen Baumgartner. A lot of y'all remember Karen. She's a wonderful violinist, still plays today. And she also was a band director she started the first string program in Lancaster in the late 70s, thereabouts. And the third one my sister has already, and her daughter-in-law is actually a very, very fine violinist, And I think like Laura's expecting to give it to her granddaughter at an appropriate age to pass it on. So those were his main hobbies, and again, he spent time on his hobbies. The other thing I've got over here, though, is the last thing he was working on was he was making a cello. That's the last thing in this cluster of hobbies. And this is where he got it. I mean, he decided he wasn't going to do that anymore. So you could look at it, but it's a half-carved top of a cello. So those were his hobbies. I know that was promised. So the last thing, I have one more piece of music that we can play now and then have questions because I think we got time. Let's do that, okay? I was going to play this as people walked out, but this is from 1975. Now, the thing that's interesting about this concert is from I was in this one. From 1975, Jill Jackson stood over there. So, you know, from 1975 to 1980, we have concert tapes for every year, but they didn't make an album. And that's one of my burning questions, if anybody can answer, is why did they make albums from 75 to 80? So this is music that hadn't been heard since it was played. Okay, this is called St. Louis Blues. Thank you. that's all I got. Anybody have?
Questions? Thank you so much. So,
That does make it.
Ben mentioned archives. I won't say just a word about the archive center. You mentioned this all. This is just a major donation that we received. You know, the archive center is going to be just up the street. We're going to go to Lancaster. The old library from the corner of French Street, one block out, and Gay Street, and then the building behind it is the Eclipse Extension. So those are going to be combined. It's going to be very elegant when we get it done. And work will begin probably in about 6 weeks on it. It'll take some time. Reception's doing it. We know they'll do a great job as they did here. And we expect the archive center to be open by mid to fall of 2026. So it's coming. And we'll be accepting donations of money, yes. But it feels like this. And this is our first major donation. We're extremely grateful to the Watkins family for it. And this is a great example. There's another one that's likely come our way, which we're already excited about. And we will be developing an acquisition policy, because we can't take grandma's buildings. There'll be things that we'll be interested in like this. But seriously, those who have great family collections and so on, will be interested, because this is going to be a very important research center. Now, there's one last point on all this. So far, this society operates with no staff, no administration overhead. And you see the volunteers that are doing all this. But the archive center is going to have to be a different story. We'll have to have an official archivist and someone to help from him or her. And in fact, Katie Ayers, we hope, is going to be that archivist. So we already have somebody there. Which is to say, we're going to have to find some way to pay for the staff. So just we will do that. It's going to be a very important contribution to Lancaster. Ben, this is a terrific, so let's have some questions. We have time for maybe 5 or 6.
Well, yes, ma'am.
You left out for me, for those reports for it in Watkins. I wasn't in Lancaster High School. I lived out of Beauty, way out in the country. Ben Watkins came out here in 1953, and I was in 9th grade, and he organized the band at Beauty. He took us to Transylvania Music Camp. He took us to the parade, what's the Carousel Parade.
Okay.
In Charlotte. He wanted us to know that even though we were all still out in the country, that we were still important. And we didn't have uniforms. And so he had us all get black corduroy Bermuda shorts, white men's shirts, pink V-neck sweaters. We went to the parade, and we thought we were really important. My daughter, when she got to that age, they tear it in, because that's all I talked about. Her daughter played flute in the Beaver Band. Her son, our great-grandson, played baritone sax in the Beaver Band. Your dad was just such a tremendous influence in my life. And he even gave me a picture of his brother Joe, all dressed up and sitting in the big band set where he was playing somewhere. He was really important.
Well, thank you for that. And that's a great story. I think one of the things I think Katie and I talked about archiving the world is opening up some kind of thing, like, you know, NPR's got Storyboard, where people go and talk about. I thought you were telling me, no, she's fanning. I know she's doing it. Because, you know, like I said earlier, everybody's got a story. Everybody. Now, some may be good. One of the archive things I've got is about 5 or 6 pages where somebody in Eddie's early band portrayed it as the devil, and the band people are getting whipped, you know. It's like, he would work you hard. Yeah, everybody's got a story. Anybody else? Yeah, well, I saw Jim first, and then we'll go.
I was in a band house in 1964, 68 in high school. And I would have continued, but something called the beginning of war came along. I years, came back to Lancaster in '72, and I started. I then attended 2 years, and so I had to continue my degree program, and I needed some electives. So Ben was teaching at Lancaster University, music appreciation 101, and I could play a bit of music. I've been exposed to all this music as this jockey that we all see down the street, different venues, but we didn't play classical music. But at Ben's class at Lancaster, we played classical music. I was introduced Grace. And as a result of that, later on, by the way, I got an A+ in this class. Later on, had a band with the kids, and they were in high school band, they were in college band at USC and Clemson. And we would take them to Europe, and of course they don't see sites like Buckingham Palace, Eiffel Tower, Coliseum, but they had to go to the symphony in these big cities because as kids, I would play classical music. As a result, then Watkins had introduced me to classical music.
Gary?
And do you have any video of halftime shows back in the '60s, or is it just all recordings of just the
The answer is maybe. Okay. When we did the digitizing, as I said, I went through the tapes and I picked the tapes that I could, that I knew pretty much were the right ones for each year. I also slipped in on the Historical Society 3 or 4 real movies, okay? Because they're expensive. The tapes have a cost, but the movies have a higher cost. So, but I was curious, and I didn't know that while, at any rate, I slipped in a couple of movies on John, which the society, and they paid for it. One of them is a musician sitting around and talking, I guess if they have members, at the old band room down behind the old high school, and it had a coal-fed, Charles was there. Charles played in that band room. It had a coal-fed stove. It was down near the old football field. Old, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Another one was a band at a shrine board. It was mostly of some of the King and what's Steve Brooks in the way I can't remember. It doesn't matter. At any rate, he's got some of those there, and there are more filmed because it's so expensive. We haven't done that yet. So that's part of the things that are going to go once you all open up your all this money, or however we get the money, and I'm not going to pass the plate today, I promise you. But those are the things that are still to be done. So the answer is maybe. Okay.
I'll be sure you to the late '60s.
Okay. We'll give you checkoff boxes. You can put it in. Charles.
Yeah, you're talking about films and stuff. I remember one time, the boy, I think, used to say, films of the ball game. And, they'd use that to coaches to find out what went wrong here and there and so forth. But that picture's taken. No sound. Didn't have sound on it. But we saw the band march on. The lines were
And we were
we didn't play a note. All we did was go out there and football field and bar.
We were called Jim would introduce the Lancaster County, or the Lancaster High School marching band, but we were not the marching band. That was the biggest stretch in the history of bands. We were a show band, and Danny did that because he had a vision of, one, he wanted us to play a lot of music, and we did. We played a lot of music. two, he wanted us to entertain, and he just, sorry, he didn't think kids marching around was as entertaining as what we were doing, what Lancaster had.
There's one more question.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to know your father and played for a short period of time in the band. I had no talent whatsoever. Not strong man, but he made me feel good. And I would like to say he was part of the greatest generation. These people went to war, they saved the world. He had the Silver Star. I don't know how many of y'all know, there's a lot of people that have Bronze Stars. Silver Star is a big, big deal. There's not many, so it was a hero in every respect. And again, he was part of the greatest generation. They won the war, they came home and did great things. So much for Ben Watkins. That's who he was.
Well, thank you.
Okay, Ben, thank you. After one, so we'll take questions.
Oh, yeah, I got no place to go, and as you heard, I love to talk.